my big question is, what did we get so wrong about the way that we've been talking about this, that millions of people still don't want to take the vaccine?
What did we get so wrong about the way that we've been talking about this, that millions of people still don't want to take the vaccine? Yeah, that is a difficult question to answer. I'm struggling to think of anything we got wrong, to be honest. Let me think. What did we get wrong? You know, maybe it's got something to do with this.
Yes, I hear what you say about somebody exercising their freedom not to have a vaccine, and they're perfectly healthy. I don't want them sitting next to me in the theatre. I don't want them standing next to me at the theatre bar. I don't want them next to me or anywhere near me or even in the same carriage on the train. So, they can exercise their freedom by staying at home.
If you decide that you don't want a vaccine or a booster, then you can decide not to go to hospital however ill you get. And that way, that is your right.
So you would leave the unjabbed at home to die if they had a heart attack, if they suffered from a stroke?
That's their choice.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
We need to make it clear to them that the vaccine is the ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And the window to do that is really narrowing. I mean, you were mentioning, Chris, about how all these states are reopening. They're reopening at 100%. And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have. Because otherwise, people are going to go out and enjoy these freedoms anyway.
People who refuse to accept vaccines, I think the right response for them is not to force them to, but rather to insist that they be isolated.
Giving up your human rights is justifiable. It's justifiable to take away a person's bodily autonomy when you have a global pandemic.
Those who haven't had jabs but could have jabs need to have a badge saying unjabbed.
Really?
Yeah.
We just have to make people understand that, no jab, no life. And that's how it is.
Without proof of the vaccine, you can't go into a pub, club, restaurant, gymnasium, anywhere at all. You can't travel, theatre, you can't even go into work. I mean, personally, I have to say, I don't even think that we should allow people on the streets unless they've had the vaccine.
We've tried the education, we've tried the carrot, we now move to the stick. If it takes time now, the time to find people, great. Let's start. Let's never go with €100, make it £100, right? And it starts, and I tell you what, it's not 60 above, let's make it 40 and above, starting on Monday. Okay? Now, if we come round, knock on the door, and you can show on your phone or you've got a letter or something, you've got an appointment, that's fine. But if you willfully oppose now, you're 40 and above, £100 fine in December, £100 fine in January, £200 in February, £300 in March. By the end of the year, you'll be spending about £1,000, and that might cut through your ignorance.
You've had your booster, and when you see people who will not take it, putting themselves at risk, it's said, how do you feel the same way I do? Does that make you angry?
It makes me angry, especially in America where they talk about, it's my right, it's my freedom. No, it's not, because you are a killer.
Don't get the vaccine, you can't go to the supermarket. Don't have the vaccine, you can't go to the ball game. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to work. You don't have the vaccine, can't come here. No shirt, no shoes, no service. That's where I think we should be right now.
Frankly, if you're not vaccinated at the moment and you're eligible and you've got no health reason for not being vaccinated, you're not just irresponsible. I mean, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I mean, that is, truthfully, you are.
People have got to understand vaccination is going to be, in the end, your route to liberty.
If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
We have to stop coddling the morons who will not get the shot. We start by calling them what they are. They are all snowflakes and cowards and idiots and losers. And most importantly, they are afraid.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F them, f their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. Then I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. Or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
We're going to move to a situation where, to protect the health system, we're going to lock out people who are not vaccinated and can be. If you're making the choice not to get vaccinated, then you're making the wrong choice. You're making the wrong choice. And for safety's sake, and back to that point about how much work our nurses have to do, as this becomes absolutely a pandemic of the unvaccinated and we open everything up, it's not going to be safe for people who are not vaccinated to be roaming around the place spreading the virus. That's what they'll be doing.
Dank Ihrer Leistung ist das gelungen. Diejenigen, die hier gegen die Impfung protestieren, haben dazu keinen Beitrag geleistet und sollten eigentlich nicht hier sein. Sie haben kein Recht, hier zu sein. Wir sind diejenigen, denen wir den Erfolg verdanken. Sie haben keinen Beitrag geleistet und ich finde, es ist eine Unverschämtheit, dass Sie noch die Stirn haben, hier die berechtigte Demonstration derjenigen zu missbrauchen, die gearbeitet haben, die es jetzt wieder tun, die wirklich belastet sind. Ihre Arbeit hat keinen Beitrag geleistet.
Emmanuel Macron said his government's vaccination strategy was to piss off the unvaccinated by continuing to make daily life more difficult. In an interview with the French newspaper Le Parisien, he is quoted to have said, "I am not about pissing off the French people, but as for the non-vaccinated, I really want to piss them off. And we will continue to do this to the end. This is the strategy."
So, to recap, the unvaccinated should be fined, denied healthcare, stripped of their freedoms, denied their right to bodily autonomy, forced to isolate, prevented from going to work, going to the supermarket, taking part in leisure activities, using public transport, and from going outside entirely. They should be forced to wear a badge identifying themselves as unvaccinated. They should be labelled as snowflakes, cowards, idiots, losers, misogynists, racists, killers, and the enemy. They take up space. They shouldn't be tolerated. They should be locked out of society. They roam around spreading viruses, and we should piss them off. And of course, this reprehensible bullying and discrimination wasn't just disseminated through our computer and TV screens for the past 2.5 years. It filled column inches in our newspapers and magazines too. In the Daily Mail, Andrew Neil wrote that it is time to punish Britain's 5 million vaccine refuseniks and curb their freedoms. In the Evening Standard, Anne McElvoy wrote that the unvaccinated have become a lethal liability that we can ill afford. In the Mirror, Polly Hudson wrote that it is time to get tough on anti-vaxxers, by which she means the unvaccinated, by the way, to hit them where it hurts, and she starts and ends the article by threatening the unvaccinated with "get jabbed or else." In The Sun, Karen Brady wrote that the unjabbed should face their own lockdown, and crossing over the Atlantic to Canada, the Toronto Star thinks that unvaccinated patients do not deserve ICU beds, and they should be left to die.
My big question is, what did we get so wrong about the way that we've been talking about this, that millions of people still don't want to take the vaccine?
Well, aside from throwing informed consent and the rest of medical ethics out the window, coercing, nudging, blackmailing, bullying, intimidating, discriminating, segregating, dehumanising, forcing, and taking people's jobs and livelihoods away, nothing really. You did great. Well done.